I never imagined that helping a beaten mother and her child would lead to an unbelievable twist. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The weight of the world pressed against my chest as I watched a terrified woman clutch her little girl in a dark alley. Rain drizzled down, mixing with the tears streaming down her cheeks. It was cold, but the chill in the air was nothing compared to the horror visible in her eyes. A man's menacing shadow loomed behind her, the way he gripped her arm sending shivers down my spine. I rushed in, heart racing, hands shaking. "Leave her alone," I shouted, my voice trembling. The man turned, surprise painted across his features like a flash before a storm. Was I insane? I could feel my palms sweating, but there was no step back. As I stepped closer, I noticed the bruises blooming on the mother's skin like deep, dark flowers. The child's wide eyes met mine, filled with a mixture of fear and hope. "What do you want?" he spat, his voice sharp enough to cut through the tension. The alley echoed with the drip of water, a haunting rhythm underscoring the standoff. My heart thundered, a drum of fate declaring, "Do something." So I did. In a moment fueled by desperation, I yelled, calling for help, for anybody. But the street was silent. The world around us seemed to hold its breath. In one sudden motion, the man shoved the mother away, and she stumbled, almost collapsing. Anger blazed through me. I lunged, adrenaline pumping, teeth gritted against the fear writhing in my gut. I could see the mother trying to regain her strength and protect her daughter, even as everything felt like it was slipping away. Then it happened. As I clashed with the attacker, an unexpected noise filled the air, a low growl. A stray dog, battered and wild, burst into the scene. Its fur matted, its eyes feral, it lunged toward the man, snapping at his heels. The guy yelped and staggered back, eyes wide with shock. Just like that, chaos erupted. The mother grabbed her child and ran, her feet pounding against the pavement. But I hesitated. The man turned on me, rage igniting in his glare. I knew then, as the dog circled around him like a sentinel, that my choice could seal our fate here or create a twister of events that none of us could foresee. I should have chased after them, should have ensured their safety. Instead, I stayed. The shadows loomed bigger, stretched by a waning moon. Would I regret this in the morning? Or would this moment become the catalyst for something greater, something sinister? The dog barked, the male was shouting, and the air turned thick with uncertainty. Before I could decide, the man lunged at me, and the world exploded in darkness. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Awareness seeped in slowly, like the gentle patter of rain awakening the earth. My senses sharpened as I blinked against the oppressive darkness, each heartbeat a reminder of the moment that had knocked me off my feet. I lay on the cold pavement, the taste of iron lingering in my mouth, and I could hear nothing but silence, heavy and foreboding. Disoriented, I pushed myself upright, the world still spinning from the encounter. Pain shot through my side, a testament to the force of the man's blow. It ignited a new fire within me, one fueled by anger and determination. I climbed to my feet, scanning my surroundings for any sign of the mother and her child. The alley, once alive with chaotic energy, now felt hauntingly empty, as if the air itself was mourning what had just transpired. "Where are they?" I muttered under my breath, the words barely escaping my lips as I stumbled toward the mouth of the alley. The rain was relentless, drenching my clothes, mixing with the adrenaline coursing through me. Each drop felt like a heavy weight, as if the universe was bearing down on my shoulders, reminding me of my failure to protect them. Then a voice, soft yet fierce, broke through the sound of the rain. "Are you okay?" I turned to see a woman approaching, her face smudged with dirt, but her eyes inviting warmth. She held a jacket in her hands, which she draped over my shoulders without hesitation. "You need this more than I do. Come on, let's get out of here." "Did you see them?" I asked, urgency straining my voice. "The mother and her daughter?" They were just here. She nodded gravely, her expression tightening. Yes, they ran further down the street. I saw that man. Toad looked furious. We should go. Her gentleness seemed misplaced in that moment, yet there was a flicker of hope ignited in her kindness. We hurried, side by side. As we walked, the woman shared her own story of survival, intertwined with loss and fate, stories that should have crushed her spirit, but instead filled her with an earnest strength. Each word she spoke wove a fragile thread of resilience, pulling me from my own despair. Hope wasn't lost. It flickered like the street lamps above, sometimes obscured but never extinguished. You did something brave back there, she said softly. Not many would stand up to a man like that. I should have done more, I confessed, guilt a gnawing weight in my chest. What if I could have stopped him, saved them both? Sometimes the bravest thing is knowing when to ask for help, she replied, her voice soothing my turmoil. You did what you could, but what did that really mean? The urgency coursed through me, a reminder that with each passing moment, the mother and her child were in danger. I quickened my pace, spurred by visions of their eyes, the mother's fear, the child's unreadable hope. As we turned a corner, a shiver ran down my spine. I stopped dead in my tracks. Up ahead, the shadows writhed, silhouetted against the flickering streetlight, and I caught a glimpse of a flash of color. The child's backpack, discarded on the ground. Panic surged through me like a tidal wave, overwhelming and raw. What did he do? I whispered, despair clawing at my throat as I rushed toward the still backpack. I could feel the woman right behind me, her breath quickening as she realized the weight of the moment. Suddenly, a shrill scream pierced the night air, seemingly distant, yet heartbreakingly close. It echoed through the damp streets, a chilling call that froze my blood. The woman grabbed my arm, her grip a lifeline amidst the fraying tapestry of hope. We have to go, she urged, but I couldn't move, my heart battling against my mind. What if it was them? What if it was too late? The child's scream reverberated through me, igniting the last remnants of my resolve. I had to find them. We had to find them. Just as I turned to make a decision, a figure emerged from the shadows, blocking our path. It was the man, his face twisted in fury, and behind him stood the mother, her eyes wide with panic. My heart dropped. She was defenseless. Let her go? I shouted, stepping forward, ready to face the darkness head-on. In that moment, I realized, every decision, every step, led us to this point, to this confrontation. There would be no going back. The dance with fate had begun, and I could either play my part or walk away, leaving everything to chance. And as I faced him, clenched fist rising, an unexpected sound broke through the low growl of the stray dog. It stepped forward, the battered hero once again, and at that moment, I knew this would either be our reckoning or our undoing. I could feel the weight of the world upon my shoulders, teetering on the edge of uncertainty. And just as I took a breath, bracing myself for the storm ahead, I caught a glimpse of what lay behind the man's second figure emerging from the shadows, one I never expected to see. The man's smirk widened, and in that instant, everything shattered. The truth, darker than the night itself, began to unravel before me. The figure emerging from the shadows was unmistakable, as if the universe conspired to deliver a truth I wasn't prepared to face. My heart plummeted, caught in a storm of disbelief and dread. There, silently observing the confrontation, was Jacob's younger brother whose life had been a fragile thread of choices woven through years of pain. My mind raced, trying to grasp the implications of his presence, the tidal wave of betrayal crashing down on me. What are you doing here? I croaked, the words foreign to my lips. My mind screamed for answers while my heart wrestled with what I felt. Anger, confusion, and a pitiful sense of longing for the bond we once shared. He looked older, hardened by demons I had chosen to ignore. This is my business, he replied with a calmness that pooled beneath the stormy surface. But the flash of desperation in his eyes betrayed him. The man looming over the mother tightened his grip, drawing her closer, as if she were his shield. So you've got some family ties, eh? How cute. He sneered, his menace tangling with Jacob's defiance in a terrible dance. But I wouldn't call that a help. You're too late to play hero.no. I screamed, reckless and desperate. You're the one who doesn't get to call the shots. My voice cracked, fear threading through my outrage as I instinctively moved protectively in front of the mother. Jacob stepped forward, breaking the icy space between us. "You don't understand, do you? I'm part of this. I can help," he pleaded, his gaze darting nervously between the man and me, a silent war raging in his expression. The mother's panic-stricken eyes darted between all of us, and I could see the fear darkening her features as she tried to gauge the shifting tides around her. My chest tightened when the child's scream echoed once more, the sound reverberating like a tolling bell for the innocent. "Help! This is a nightmare, Jacob," I choked out, wishing I could pull him away from whatever darkness he had embraced. "You shouldn't be here. You don't know what you're getting into." A tense silence hovered as the man released a low, thunderous laugh, the kind that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. "Family drama in the middle of a hostage situation, this is rich," he taunted. "But I must say, this little show is becoming quite the spectacle." Jacob stood firm, his voice trembling yet steady. "You don't have to hurt anyone. Let her go. Whatever you think you'll gain by this, I can help you find something better." The man's eyes glinted with a dangerous mix of amusement and contempt, as if he derived pleasure from our disarray. Anxiety clawed at my insides. We were racing blind into a storm, and I knew that without a clear plan, we could suffocate in the chaos. The mother's eyes met mine for an instant, and in that brief exchange, I felt the heavy weight of hope. She believed in us, had faith that we could untangle this mess. But dread loomed in my heart, gnawing deeper as I considered the dangers. We didn't know Jacob's motives. We couldn't trust what the man would do if cornered. "Should I make my next move?" He spat, his grip tightening on the mother as he leaned closer, baring his teeth. "Or do you plan to be the hero here?" I didn't know how to respond. Panic knitted my thoughts into an unbearable knot. But before I could utter another word, a flash of inspiration sparked in my mind, ignited by the small kindness I'd received from the woman earlier. "You can go," I called out, hoping my voice would strengthen not just my resolve, but also the resolve of those around me. "You can take your life back from him. You have the power to change." Jacob's brow furrowed, confusion evident on his face, but the intensity of the moment felt almost electric. I could see the doubt dissolve as he processed my words. "She's right, we can make this right, but you have to let her go. I won't let you waste your life like this." The man glowered at us, weighing his options as if he could crack us open like an egg and find the secrets inside. In that fleeting moment of doubt, I took a step forward, my heart pounding in my chest. And then it happened. A dog, with its matted fur and ribs jutting out from starvation, suddenly lunged forward, growling fiercely as it created a ruckus around us. I could hardly believe my eyes. Had this stray returned at the precise moment we needed an ally? "That's it, get him." I called to the dog as adrenaline coursed through my veins. "Help us." A flicker of energy coursed through the group as we turned, breaths held, hearts racing, and staring down the dark path laid out before us. The dog bounded furiously toward our captor, leaving a cacophony of barking and mayhem in its wake. And just as the man lost his grip on the mother in surprise, Jacob and I exchanged aware glances. Everything hung in a fragile balance, straddled between right and wrong, chaos and order, a decisive moment that could either deliver us to freedom or drive us to despair. But the situation was unraveling faster than I could comprehend, and I felt a slow dread creep in as I sensed that something larger than this immediate confrontation was looming. Was Jacob really here to help, or was he a pawn in a game far darker than I imagined? What if he held secrets about that night, secrets I wasn't ready to face? As the dog barked furiously, the world around us blurred into a whirlwind of desperation and fragmented hope, and I realized this battle was only just beginning. In the depths of this tumult, the roots of our fate intertwined, tangled and unyielding, pulling us into an inexorable cycle of choices that awaited us, a dark twist unfolding in ways neither of us could foresee. The chaos of barking and yelling momentarily fractured my panic, and for the first time, I felt something unexpected surge within me, a flicker of hope that momentarily illuminated the dark shadows surrounding us. The dog, a ragged warrior of fate, flanked our side as if it were a last defense against the tides of our deepening crisis. For Jacob and me, it was a gasp of fresh air in suffocating waters. But just as the moment of possibility began to swell, the man straightened, his fierce eyes ablaze with fury. "Stupid mutt. You really think that's enough to scare me?" His voice rippled through the air like a venomous snake. It was then that I finally registered the weight on Jacob's brow, the tension that mirrored the turmoil in my heart. Something deep within urged me to reach toward him, to try to find that bond we once had. But what could I say? How could I know what lay beneath the hardened mask he wore? "Why did you come here, Jacob?" I shouted, desperation clawing at the edges of my voice. "We don't know what you've been through. You can still walk away from this." It felt like a plea as much for him as it was for myself. A call to the brother I had lost long ago amidst the wreckage of family ties. His eyes flared with an emotion I didn't quite recognize. Sadness mingled with a determination that seemed electric, sparking like the overhead lights flickering with uncertainty. "It's not that simple, brother," he said, his voice raw as if dredging up a pain that was never far from the surface. "I've made choices, things you can't even begin to understand." And there it was, the chasm of unspoken words and buried truths that had divided us like a rift across an ancient land. A fissure that was now threatening to swallow our fragile alliance. With the mother trembling close to me, I turned my focus back to the man. "You think you can control us with fear, that it'll keep you in charge?" I confronted him, channeling the spitfire of adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Get ready to watch how your control shatters." But instead of breaking under my defiance, the man took a step forward, his stance solid as a rock. His eyes narrowed, illuminated by something inexplicable. "Controlling people is easy," he said, his voice a low drawl that dripped with mockery. "But crushing hope? That's an art." Before I could react, he lunged, a shadow on the move. Instinctively, I pushed the mother back, and just in time, Jacob stepped forward, forcing the man to redirect. The scuffle that began only amplified the chaos, the dog continuing its fervent barking as panic edged closer, coloring the air with fear. In the midst of the confrontation, my attention wandered back to the mother, her eyes wide and uncertain. She needed reassurance, but I was spiraling inside, emotions rendering me powerless against the storm swarming overhead. I leaned closer to her, lowering my voice to calm the erratic beat of her heart. "Stay close to me. We'll find a way." Yet before I could offer any deeper solace, Jacob yanked the man's wrist, wrestling for control of the hostage. The world around us became a fray of adrenaline and confusion, but then the air shifted. I felt it before I saw it, an unexpected crack of commotion behind me. "Stop. Please, just stop." A small voice erupted from the shadows, piercing through the tangled noise. The child, a fragile figure wearing fear as a cloak, stepped into the light. I gasped, my heart clenching painfully as the truth crashed over me. "Get back!" the man yelled, his grip faltering as he turned. But it was too late for words of warning. The child's bravery illuminated a harsh truth in that moment. Such innocence had always commanded an uncanny strength. A moment hung like a delicate thread before the man let go, drawn closer to the child's plea. "What are you doing here?" he rasped, bordering on tears of rage and disbelief. Doubt flashed across Jacob's face, and it seemed time froze while the edges of reality blurred into an indistinct haze. It was in that instant I knew the man's hold on the situation could shatter completely. I could sense the tremor of the fault lines cracking within him, a fracture threatening to split the chaos wide open. "Jacob," I murmured, realizing our unspoken bond wasn't just about the pasta dance between confessions and unrelenting fears. "We can't let this hate pull us down. We're stronger together." Just then, the dog lunged again, targeting the weary man's leg, and I caught a glimpse of our chance amid the maelstrom. The tension spiraled, ebbing and flowing, revealing that the choices lay before us, sharper than ever. But then, like a thunderous clap of fate, everything shifted. The child stepped even closer to the man, trembling but resolute. "You don't have to hurt anyone. Just stop. You're stronger than this," the child cried, and it struck a haunting chord deep within the It dawned on me our lives spun on this fragile web of courage and misunderstandings. In that moment, my heart raced with a fear sharp as ice. We teetered on the brink of a revelation. Was there a chance in this theater of despair for the man to choose redemption? Or was he too enshrined in his darkness to see another path? As the world narrowed into that suspenseful instant, I felt dread ripple through me. What if this confrontation exposed something more pervasive, leaving us vulnerable, stripping away the very fabric of our shared humanity? And then, as if to answer, the man's gaze flickered from rage to uncertainty, a storm brewing behind his eyes. My breath hitched, the expanding silence stretching painfully, as if the universe held its breath for what would come next. Jacob's face reflected my own apprehensions. What revelation awaited us in the wake of what we had skirmished against? This battle was merely the prelude to something far darker looming on the horizon, and we had no idea how vulnerable we had become, standing on the edge of a new and unimaginable unfolding truth. The dog's ferocious barking echoed in the fraught atmosphere, a clamor that mingled with the heavy silence that followed the child's plea. The man, torn between two worlds, his fury warring with an unexpected flicker of humanity, appeared momentarily trapped within his own fragile balance. I could see it written in the taut lining of his face, each ripple of emotion pulling him in opposite directions. But uncertainty had become a dangerous ally, and we were all left dancing on the knife edge of this moment. "Please," I whispered, though I wasn't sure who I was imploring, the man or myself. My heart thudded in my ribcage, an erratic drum echoing old fears and new dilemmas. There's strength in remembering who you were before the darkness. You don't have to stay this way. Jacob's face softened for the briefest of seconds, apprehension bleeding into resolve. It's true. We all have our demons, but you don't have to unleash them on the innocent anymore. You can change. His voice, once a weapon, now carried a gentle weight, and the air shifted once more, filled with repressed emotion that swelled against the grim chaos of our situation. Then, before I could register it, the child spoke again, her voice trembling yet unyielding. "You're not a monster. Monsters don't cry. They hide. You can come back with us. We can help you," she said. And for the first time, a crack appeared in the man's facade, his steely exterior giving way to something raw and vulnerable. But darkness is a powerful foe, and I watched as clarity glimmered only briefly before a fresh wave of doubt poured over him. "Help? You think it's so simple? You think I can just..." His words splintered off into a choked silence, the reality of his situation crashing against the walls of his built-up bravado. As another bark rang out, the man flinched, and his grip on the hostage loosened, just enough for Jacob to seize the moment. "Now," he shouted, but the desperation in his voice revealed that our hope was a fragile construct teetering on the edge of destruction. I lunged forward, but the moment hung heavy like an unformed thought caught in the fog of my mind. The realization that we were out of time, that our opening was closing, rushed back with a wave of dread. "Jacob, don't!" I screamed, knowing a move now could provoke an unpredictable reaction. Before I could reach him, the man turned, eyes wide with despair, his body trembling as he fought against the echoes of his past. You don't understand what I've done," he spat, choking on the weight of his own confessions. "I don't need to understand everything. We just need to move forward," Jacob insisted, breath hitching, our collective anxiety boiling over into rage. Would he accept this lifeline, or would he recoil, turning instead toward the shadows that tried to claim him? The dog, sensing the shift in the air, lunged again, biting the man's leg as I felt the ground beneath us begin to tremble with an ominous force. "Get away from him," I shouted, as the man stumbled, his other hand gripping the stray hair of desperation's unraveling tapestry. Would the monster in him reign, or would the plea for redemption prevail? But just then, something changed. A moment truly fleeting, yet monumental, carried us beyond the bounds of fear. The child stepped forward again, unwavering. "Every choice matters. You can still be the good guy. You can be brave if you choose." And at her words, a tremor rippled through the man, and with it, a spark of something fresh ignited deep in his gaze. For a heartbeat, hope filled the space where fear had once claimed a throne. It was then, just as the air shimmered with possibility, that everything spiraled. The tremor beneath us shifted to a quake, unearthing chaos beneath the surface. Suddenly, the sound of sirens wailed from afar, echoing ominously, growing closer, fortifying my fear that this salvation moment could tumble into the abyss. "Jacob, we need to go," I shouted, my heart racing. The slender thread of reprieve hung in the balance, even as the man's expression fractured. Hope, treacherous and fragile, was slipping through our fingers like grains of sand. Then another revelation sliced through the cacophonious series of memories, darkened and occluded, began to flood my mind in a haunting wave. Vivid images of a time I had repressed surged forth. The man, in another life, had been a protector once our protector. Brotherhood stood beside us, only now stained with shadows of choices that twisted him towards cruelty. Wait, I cried, my insides churning as I grasped the truth unraveling around us. Do you remember who you used to be? You saved us once. You can save them now. The mania in the man's eyes longed for connection as well, as if he was a ship at sea desperate for land and familiarity. That fleeting sense of recognition flickered only to be quenched by the heavy weight of all he had contributed to the darkness consuming him. With sirens growing nearer, a collective urgency gripped us. I thought I saw the man's internal struggle crystallize into resolution, his gaze flickering from me to the child, an unexpected connection that felt like the spark of life swirling in the air. And before I could process it all, the unraveling of our small world took a sharp turn. A revelation lay unbidden in my heart, racing toward an inevitable confrontation in the chaos yet to follow. Just come with us, the child implored, and in that moment, I realized our fractured hopes hung upon the fragile threads of another unimaginable twist, a revelation that lurked just outside the limits of our comprehension. Would this act of courage ignite a shift in the man? Or would the truth I had unknowingly borne in my memory become a curse that would pull us all down into darkness together? As the wail of sirens sang into the night, the world around us constricted, the tension choking my breath. Would he choose to return from the abyss to which he had descended, or would he instead fall deeper into the shadows? The revelation clawed at my darkness had a hold that was hard to shake free, and in that crushing grip, we found ourselves suspended in a heartbreaking crossroads of choices that would forever alter our fates, leaving me gasping for what would come next. The air thickened as the sirens wailed, cutting through the remnants of hope like a knife. A discordant symphony played around us. Fear, desperation, and flickering lights grew closer, threatening to drown our fragile moment in chaos. The child's words hung in the air, a lifeline cast into turbulent waters. I could see the man's internal war spiraling further, the remnants of his resolve battling against the tidal wave of torment that he couldn't escape. Just take a step forward, I urged, voice trembling. You can walk away from this. This isn't who you have to be. But even as I shouted, I felt an ominous awareness creeping in. For every moment he hesitated, the weight of his past loomed larger. Each heartbeat drummed louder, echoing the cyclical nature of regret and sorrow that he couldn't seem to shake off. I stepped back, searching his face for any glimmer of the protector he once was, memories of our shared laughter and brotherhood trying to break through the dark clout surrounding him. And yet there remained a howl of grief in his eyes, a chasm birthed from unspeakable actions, wrought by the decisions that had marred him. You don't know me, he rasped, the words slicing through the air. You think there's a way back? But before I could respond, the child took another step closer, positioning herself between both the man and the encroaching sirens. You're not just a monster, she said, the innocence of her small stature turning into an unexpected armor. You can choose to be better. Come with me. A moment stretched, so delicate that it felt like a thread was being pulled taut, about to snap. For a sliver of time, I thought I saw a flicker of recognition in his eyes, a moment where despair waned, and flickers of humanity danced like fireflies in the dark. But it faded, and I realized that the walls he had built around himself were fortified with scars and memories. The growl of the dog crescendoed into an eruption of barks, sensing the shift in the man's demeanor. With a flinch, he stepped back, instinctively raising his arms as if to shield himself from rejection. I grasped for words that could reach him. The sirens weren't just a sound. They heralded an impending storm threatening to sweep him away. Then it happened, a moment of unexpected clarity. The child reached out, her tiny fingers brushing against his trembling hand. Please don't hurt anyone anymore, she whispered, voice shaking with naive hope. You have the power to change. We can help. You can be our superhero again. The simplest truth, the purest conviction shattered the tension in the air, leaving a glimmer of light fighting against the looming darkness. Could it be? Did she truly believe that still resided within him? I watched with bated breath as the man's expression flickered, eyes darting toward the sounds of approaching authority. But then, something deeper broke through the surface. My own buried truths clawed at me, relentless in their pursuit. Maybe it was my turn to step into the fray. Listen to her, I implored, feeling a rawness in my own heart. We've all made choices we can't take back. But we can choose what happens next. In that crowded moment, everything hung in the balance. The glimmers of hope and shadows of past actions danced around like embers caught in a fresh wind. The sirens screamed their arrival, and he was faced with a choice that would ripple through all of us like a pebble dropped into still water. And then a revelation struck me with a force that felt like lightning. My mind grappled with the truth about this man, the protector he had been. Memories of a day long buried resurfaced off laughter and joy, a day where shields were raised not against us, but alongside us. We had once believed in each other. A bond made of knotted strings could unravel into connection. But were those ties still strong enough to hold us through the turbulence? The man hesitated, the weight of everything pressing down, so heavy it could shatter him. The dog hushed, sensing the shift, no longer a threat. Don't listen to the past, I said, desperate to be the bridge. It was a part of you, but it doesn't define you. You can still choose your tomorrow. Just as the last remnants of hope pulsed vibrantly between us, a shadow erupted from the edge of the alley. What's going on here? A voice barked. A uniformed officer emerged from the darkness, the badge glinting ominously under the streetlight, his posture commanding and authoritative. Instinctively, the man turned, and I saw the flicker of fear cross his features. The fragile thread of connection frayed in an instant as the sirens cut through with a sense of finality. I wanted to scream him back, "Don't let the darkness reclaim you." But it was a battle for his heart, and the sirens were not the only adversity closing in. Before I could react, he backed away from the child, eyes darting as the thin thread of hope was on the verge of snapping. "No, stay back," he cried out, something shifting in him once more. The monster within clawed its way to the surface. There, raw and wretched, a primal urge to escape that I felt a sob building, trapped in my throat as everything slipped away. "Don't you dare give in," I shouted, propelled by a surge of desperation. "This is your moment. You can turn it around. Don't let them take you from us." But it was too late. The man, in one last frantic gesture, turned and ran. The sounds of the world blurred. I watched it in disbelief as he dashed into the shadows, leaving us behind. "No." The child's voice cracked, tears glimmering as she looked to me, helpless. The officer's voice rang sharply, authoritative but lacking understanding as he called out, "Stop." And just like that, he vanished into the darkness that was once his domain, a soul fleeing the light we tried to offer. The flickering hope was now a flame extinguished, leaving behind nothing but echoes of despair. That I turned to the child, heartbreaking. "But we can't stop here," I said, desperately searching for a thread of solace to offer her. "We can still reach him. We can help him." My own heart raced with the fear that our chance at redemption would dissipate, just as he had done. But her gaze shifted to the shadows, her small frame trembling as realization washed over us both. "What if he's gone for good?" she whispered. I in the echo of her words. The weight of fear pressed down upon me, dragging me into uncertainty. Had we lost him forever? Or was there still a chance that he would awaken from the depths of despair, pursued by both the world and his own demons? The unanswered questions hung thick in the air as we stood on the precipice, together amidst the lingering echoes of choices and paths unchosen. The dim light flickered around us, echoing the uncertainty that wrapped itself around my heart like a vice. The child's gaze, though fragile, burned with an intensity that I couldn't ignore. As the officer paced the alley, his radio crackling with directives, I felt the world closing, and each breath grew heavier, laden with the weight of our failure. "He'll come back," I heard myself say, though doubt slithered within my chest. "He has to." I clutched the girl's hand, feeling her pulse through her small palm, a reminder that perhaps there was still a chance, perhaps somewhere in the shadows. He was grappling with his demons, trying to decipher the light we had shown him. "What if we can't find him?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, eyes darting anxiously between the officer and the darkness consuming the alley. He looked so scared, and my heart sank at the memory of the fear that had momentarily shadowed hope's fragile offer. And no, I insisted, trying to weave a thread of courage back into the fabric of our reality. We can't give up. Not now. I summoned my most hopeful tone, though my mind raced with visions of the man dissipating into obscurity, lost to the echoes of his past. Even as I spoke, the officer's presence loomed larger. He was scanning the vicinity with narrowed eyes, his determined posture creating a wall between our fragile resolve and the uncertainty that churned behind each siren's wail. "Stay back, both of you," he commanded, leather gloves snapping against his waistband, a show of authority that offered neither comfort nor assurance. As we obeyed, I exchanged a glance with the child, the flicker of determination reflected against the backdrop of despair. "Shall we find him?" I offered quietly, my voice heavy with the mission yet to come. "We can search where he might feel safe, where we found him before." Just as the child was about to nod, her attention drew to a nearby cardboard box overturned in the shadows. She bounded toward it, eyes wide with wonder. I could hardly keep pace as her small legs took her closer to what could have been a treasure in the forgotten corners of the city. Pulling the box upright, her excitement felt tangible, a brief respite amid the weight of our situation. "Look, there's something," she yelled, her voice breaking the tension, pulling at my heartstrings as I hurried over to her side. At that moment, the distant sirens wailed once more, but they felt more like a heart-beaten assurance that movement still thrummed beneath our despair. As I peered into the box, I saw a patchwork quilt, frayed and stained, seemingly abandoned but alive with remnants of warmth. It was a comforter of shared stories, unfurling like a narrative of love once wrapped around a family. Maybe it belonged to him, the child mused, her eyes softening. He could use this. The thought struck meth idea that this quilt could bridge the chasm between all of us, a piece of tangible hope. "You're right," I replied, suddenly energized. "Let's take it to him, a little piece of light, just like we tried to give him before." With the quilt tucked under our arms, we looked to the alleys leading away from the chaos, each path whispering secrets lost in the shadows. The flickering streetlight sent a fractured glow along our way. "If we go left," the child suggested, her voice imbued with determination. "I think I remember where he was sitting before." Heart pounding with new purpose, I nodded. "That's our way. Let's find him." As we moved cautiously through the alleyways, the bitterness of lost time weighed heavy on my heart. The sirens faded into the backdrop of the city, their urgency replaced by the cadence of our search, each footstep echoing a new promise, a longing to reclaim hope amid the darkness. Moments turned into minutes as we navigated the streets, every shadow casting doubt over our mission. Would he receive us again? Would he still be alive with the glimmers of choice? Anxiety tied my stomach into knots, but the child's innocent hope anchored my resolve. Finally, we turned a corner, and there, illuminated by the soft glow of a single streetlight, we saw him huddled against a cracked wall. His figure, once so imposing, seemed shrunken, slumped, and enveloped by the weight of despair. The sight twisted in my chest, threatening to break my heart open further. I gestured to the child to stay back, needing to approach slowly. "Hey, are you okay?" I called gently, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. He turned slightly, eyes red-rimmed, but luminous with confused emotions. "What do you want?" His words came out harsh, defensive, but there lingered a hint of vulnerability beneath them, just enough to coax me forward. "We know what you've been through," I began, extending the quilt toward him like an olive branch. "We're not here to judge. We found this, we thought you might need it." For a moment, the air hung still, the world around us silenced into a vacuum. His eyes flicked between the quilt and my face. The raw edge of pain broke at the surface, something longing for connection and longing for solace warring fiercely within him. "No one cares about things like that," he mumbled, the walls around him slowly rising once more, yet I persisted. "You're wrong," I urged, my heart pounding. "You can choose better for yourself. You don't have to be alone. We can be friends again." From behind me, the child stepped forward, clutching the hem of the quilt with a longing too bright to ignore. "You can be a superhero, just like before," she added, soft and hopeful. But just as his gaze began to soften, a sharp clang echoed around the corner. A hasty gathering of officers appeared, their flashlights sweeping across the ground. The man's expression twisted into panic, eyes darting between us and the encroaching danger. "Run!" I shouted, pushing the child back as I felt my heart pound wildly, the weight of the moment crashing down around us. "Get to safety." But before I could act, the man stood up, his face pale, and shouted, "Wait." His voice crumbled with an urgency that halted both officers and our own breaths. Time stretched thin, and I felt the heaviness of impending choices loom the path forward ever so fraught with uncertainty. What could he say? Did he dare challenge the fears that had surfaced again amid this tempest? The child and I waited, hearts racing, as we stood before a crucial crossroads where our pasts and our futures intertwined. And to my astonishment, he took a step back toward us, hand outstretched, a silent plea for a chance to turn back toward the light, even as shadows encroached further. But in an instant, the officers closed in, their shouts echoing in order I feared he might not hear. As their footsteps grew louder, a singular question burned within me: would we all choose together, or would darkness swallow us again in this unfinished story? Just as he was about to make a choice, a decision that could alter everything, I sensed the truth crumble around me, so close yet eternally out of reach. As the officers tightened their grip on the situation, the fragile thread of hope I had clung to began to fray. "You don't understand. It's not what you think," the man shouted, desperation bleeding into his voice, his eyes wide and frantic as he looked between us and the advancing figures in uniform. I could see the child's small fingers digging into the quilt, her wide eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and determination. "Please," she cried out, her innocence juxtaposed against the chaos that was spiraling around us. "We just want to help you." With the officer's yell barking orders, I felt a surge of heat rise up inside me, a wild mix of protectiveness tempered with the reality of the scene. I took a step forward, a lump forming in my throat as I weighed my next words. "You have a chance now. Don't let them take that from you." But the man stood silent for a moment, vulnerability flashing on his face as he glanced at the quilt, this offering of warmth and connection. Time seemed to stretch dangerously thin, each heartbeat echoing louder than the impending confrontation. And then, just when a glimmer of understanding flickered in his eyes, a barked command from the officer shattered the moment. "Step away from the suspect. Hands where we can see them." The urgency in his voice made my stomach twist. I couldn't let fear dictate the outcome. "He isn't a suspect," I shot back, a spark of defiance igniting my resolve. "He's a person, just like us. We're here to help." "Ma'am, I advise you to step aside," the officer repeated, his tone unyielding as he pointed his flashlight at the man, whose form now seemed to hunch in on itself, almost like a child retreating from impending separation. I sensed that the fragile hope we built together was crumbling once more. The man swayed slightly as if caught in a tempest of his own thoughts. "I can't go back," he shouted, eyes darting wildly. "You don't know what they'll do to me." What happened? A cold chill slithered through me. This wasn't just a man in trouble. This was a life soaked in layers of pain and dark histories, ugly truths that had somehow led him here. He was collapsing back into the shadows before my eyes, the fear that had once been a flicker of a shared possible future now swimming with shame. Suddenly, the weight of the moment hit me hard, the understanding of consequences sharpening my senses. "You can change this," I urged, my voice resonating with every inch of conviction I could muster. "You're not alone anymore. We are here. We've come this far. Just a little more, please." But just as I thought I saw a flicker of recognition in his gaze, a loud crack shattered the air, a result of a panicked move, the officers believing the worst. The sirens wailing around the corner became a siren song of impending doom. To my horror, the gun was drawn, focus locked on the man I had hoped would seize this opportunity. "Get on the ground," the officer yelled, their voice echoing through the alley like a death knell. In the blink of an eye, I saw everything could unravel again in one cruel, heart-stopping instant. "Wait, I'm not armed. Please," the man cried out, raising his hands high, fear etched across his face. I reached out instinctively. Despite the danger wrapping around our hopes, feelings of camaraderie, and the desire to break free flowing through my veins. Just then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of the small child. She was stepping forward, hand trembling as she lifted it with trembling resolution. "Stop. He's not a bad man." Her voice, though soft, held a weight deeper than the shadows surrounding us. He needs us. My heart squeezed painfully at her bravery, but before I could process her actions, the tension snapped taut. An officer moved toward her, gruffly shouting, "Back off, kid." "No," I screamed, reaching for her, but before I could get to her, the man bolted forward, his fear metamorphosing into wild desperation. "Don't hurt her. She's just trying to help." Everything exploded in chaos, yells, and confusion cascading through the alleyway. In that moment, time folded in on itself, the air thick with impending choices, the possibility of cracking under unyielding pressure palpable. As the officers closed in, a scream pierced the night. It wasn't human, it was the sound of a child's toy being crushed underfoot. I felt my heart plummet, an unearthly sense of wrongness spiraled around us. The man's wide eyes met mine in that painfully slow motion. And then, from a small side entrance, a woman burst forth, her face ghostly pale, urgency painting her features with a hopeful yet frantic desperation. "What are you doing? Stop. He's not the monster here." Her voice rang out, ricocheting through the air with a determination that cut like a knife. My breath caught as I realized she was familiar. She was someone whose story I had glimpsed in Pasinga Mother, desperate and beaten, seeking refuge. She stumbled toward us, breathless, and suddenly, her arrival painted a dire picture of the past that had come back to haunt us all. Just then, the unexpected twist unfurled in front of us, layers of tragedy unfolding like the quilt now lying forgotten on the ground. As realization dawned on me, I looked at the man who had tried to flee, fear and shame coiling within me. The past we were trying to escape was colliding with the present in a way I never would have imagined. And amid the haunting darkness, as the officers closed in, I was left standing at the edge of a revelation that would change the course of this twisted story forever. I clutched the child's hand tighter, battling against the impending tempest, knowing that the choices each of us made in these last moments could either forge a new way forward or fracture us all beyond repair. The woman's presence shifted the atmosphere, bending the currents of despair into something more chaotic. Her lips quivered, eyes darting around as if searching for the invisible hands of fate that had drawn us all here. "You don't understand," she pleaded, her voice cracking against the rising tide of tension. "He's not the one you want. You need to listen." I could feel the child's grip tighten around my hand, a frail thread of innocence standing against the looming storm, echoing the same message we had fought for. "He helped us," the girl declared, her voice a beacon of fragile truth. "He saved us." The officers remained stoic, shields of authority created from years of hardened duty, unmoved by the crystalline desperation that hung in the air. I felt the walls closing in, each second echoing with the weight of impending choices, the specter of violence whispering dangerously close. "Please," I urged, my voice trembling as I stepped closer, my heart racing with the need to shield the innocent from the chaos. "He has a story. You can't just take him without understanding. We don't deserve to be treated like this." I could feel the heat of defiance curling within me, memories of my own shadows bubbling to the surface. The woman took a breath, still scanning the faces around her with an intensity that revealed just how deeply this moment threaded through her past. "They came for me too, once. But he wouldn't let them take me. I owe him everything," she continued fervently, urgency flooding her words like an open spigot. Suddenly, as if the universe conspired against us, an officer stepped forward, baton raised, urgency morphing into aggression. "Enough with the chatter. Get everyone on the ground." The command sliced through the air, drowning out the plea for reason. Time slowed ominously. The child's button-eyed gaze darted between us, caught between fear and the spark of something that felt like courage. I watched as she released my hand and took a trembling step forward, her small body swaying as she shouted, "But we're all in this together." A gasp rippled through me. The sheer bravery it took for her to step into the eye of the storm sent a jolt through my veins. I glanced at her parents, the ghosts of anguished memories teetering on the edge of recognition. They had fought so hard for her, and here she was, unwittingly carrying the weight of our hopes, unwilling to let the truth be silenced. "Don't," I shouted, instinctively reaching for her. But before I could act, the officer's eyes hardened, brimming with fierce resolve to maintain control. My stomach twisted as I grasped the chasm that was opening beneath us, and that's when it happened. The man, with a flash of understanding ignited by the child's plea, lunged forward. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, only react. "Stop!" I screamed, but it was drowned out by the river of chaos spiraling around us. With adrenaline sharpening every detail, I caught sight of the woman in the fray, her face a marble of determination as she rushed to the child's side. "Get down," she urged, both a protective mother and a warrior forged through loss. In that moment, it wasn't just her safety I feared for, but the very fabric of hope we had fought to build around us all. As the man's silhouette loomed, I could see desperation twist him into a caricature of fear. Each movement, quick and jagged, started to remind me of someone I loved, someone lost in the currents of anguish. The moment splintered sharply, revealing the fragile connections woven by shared grief and lingering scars. "What happened to you?" I found myself whispering, more to myself than to him, for I understood in that instant that darkness can claw its way through the most innocuous places: our souls, our pasts, and even those we think we can save. Suddenly, a shot rang out, shattering the charged atmosphere, a clarity born of chaos, freezing my heart in place. The force of it knocked everyone backward, the noise deafening. I flinched, squeezing my eyes shut against the vision of horror, but when I opened them, I saw something unexpected. The child, still standing, her innocence unscathed, her eyes wide with fear, yet gleaming with hope amid rising smoke and echoed screams. "Help!" she cried, as if the very word could slice through the chaos. I reached for her just as the man fell to the ground, and suddenly, a shift cracked open amidst the chaos. Words, strung together out of desperation, echoed in my mind as clarity washed over me. This wasn't simply about survival. It was about truth finding its place in a world painted with misunderstanding. Time crumbled again, uncertainty mingling with the clarity of violence and bravery coexisting in harmony. I turned my gaze back toward the woman, and in her expression filled with a mixture of pure fright and unwavering love, I saw it what she was to him, and how what we each faced made ghosts of our pasts come to life. "Together," she whispered, almost lost amid the impending tide. And just like that, the last stitch of hope tethered us, the present colliding endlessly with the weight of choices unmade, drowning us in possibilities neither of us could imagine. And then, before I could voice a thought, a terrifying scream erupted from behind, a truth unveiling itself in the mere seconds snatched from our grasp. With a jolt, I turned, and my breath caught in my throat as I faced the officers, standing resolute, guns trained on us. But it was the sight of the little girl, her eyes wide and horrified, standing beside the fallen man, that shattered what little control remained. In that moment of despair, a voice echoed through the darkness, one that wasn't just mine or the woman's, but somehow a symphony of souls crying out for understanding. The world pressed close, and I let the child's hand slip from mine, the warmth of belief igniting a moment that could change everything. The confrontation had reached its pinnacle, spiraling in and out of reality, and I found myself stepping forward again, filled with determination, the act of defiance woven against the night. A choice made not just for me, but for every soul stitched across the fabric of broken hope. And in that heartbeat, I knew one thing for certain: our fates were no longer just our own, and the truth we had discovered could shatter our world or mend it for good if only we dared to face it. The air crackled with tension, every heartbeat echoing through the alley like a war drum. I felt as though time had frozen, each second stretching into eternity, and the weight of those seconds bore down on all of us. I glanced at the child standing resolutely by the fallen man, her unwavering courage piercing through the smokescreen of chaos around us. "Please," she cried again, her voice a melody of innocence that commanded attention. "He's not bad. He's not a monster." Her words crashed against the officer's shouts, a testament to hope splintered but somehow still alive. But a part of me feared the darkness lurking behind that man, a darkness I sensed in the very marrow of my bones. What had twisted him into the figure before us? It hung heavy in the air, a tangible force threatening to tear us all apart. The man lay sprawled on the pavement, his face a mask of anguish, I saw shadows flicker across his features, lines etched by regret, pain, and some buried flicker of recognition. Had I not seen that same face in the mirror on days darker than this one? Get back, an officer repeated, his voice cutting through the fragments of reason like a shard of glass. My heart raced, the primal fight-or-flight instinct surging as I looked between the child, the mother, and back to him. Stop this, I shouted, driven by instinct. He's not the enemy here. But the officers remained unmoved, barricading themselves behind the rigid dichotomy of authority and fear. Suddenly, in the midst of this chaos, I felt something stir inside me, a deep-rooted conviction ignited from the simplest of truths that hung heavy in the air, our stories intertwined, woven in a fabric of shared existence. Listen, we're all fighting our own demons, aren't we? This isn't just about him. My voice trembled but rang true in the clamor of doubt and fear that I in that moment. The woman, the mother of the child's protector, stood tall, eyes shimmering with an intensity born of love combined with a desperate kind of bravery. You don't understand, saved my life. He shielded me when no one else would. Her voice broke the cacophony, revealing the tangled web of connections that had brought us to this point. The officers shifted slightly, processing her words, but still unsure how to interpret the truth we were weaving before them. The child held her breath, eyes locked on the man, her innocence hinting at an understanding deeper than any of us had. Maybe he's not your enemy, I murmured, stepping closer, my heart guiding me through the chaos. Maybe he is someone looking for redemption. My eyes met the man's, and everything within me screamed for him not to retreat, not to let the shadows swallow him whole. You were once a protector, I implored softly. Find that strength again. For a moment, it hung there in the air, a fragile thread of hope that threatened to snap under the weight of despair. The man's eyes shimmered, wrestling with something hidden deep within, a flicker of the protector he had been, battling the torrent of resentment and pain tightly coiled around his heart. But as the tension peaked, chaos erupted from the other side of the alley. An officer shouted a command, and my instincts kicked in once more. No, don't let this escalate, I called, my heart racing as I moved, feeling the fabric of our lives intertwine in a desperate dance. Suddenly, the air crackled with an unseen a primal sense of vulnerability intermingled with bravery. Time snapped back into motion, and we rushed toward the man all at once, the child and her mother at my side, the weight of our combined hope pushing forward. Finally, he looked at us, truly looked. Something within him stirred awake. His expression shifted, torn between fear and yearning. I can't, he whispered, voice trembling, eyes glistening with confusion and a desperate longing to escape. I've failed too many times. You don't understand, and yet, in his vulnerability, I sensed the walls surrounding him beginning to crack. Then don't let failure be the end, I said, fighting back the tears threatening to fall. Let this be your beginning. We can choose together. As my words hung in the air, the cacophony around us grew louder. The moment was here, a tipping point where choices poured heavier than thunder. The officers stood ready, tension wound tightly around us all. Please, he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper, breaking like glass against the weight of regret. I don't want to hurt anyone, no one wants that. Just take a step back to the light. I urged, heart pounding. We fight for our stories together, but we must step toward the light. You don't have to do this alone. Then, with a tremor in the air, he hesitated. The weight of his burden had collided with the truth of our united stance. I reached out slowly, and the child stepped beside me, fingernails digging into her palm, but there was shimmering light in her eyes. Together, she declared fiercely, pulling him closer, the bond we forged pushing against the darkened tide. You can come back. Please don't run anymore. It was then this kaleidoscope moment crystallized a life-changing realization, not just for him, but for me too. I let the warmth of understanding wrap around me, and with it, the soft shimmer of forgiveness born from a heart weary of judgment and ready to embrace hope. And then it happened. Ed reached forward, hands trembling, raw emotion threading through the quiet chaos. He started, vulnerability blooming behind his eyes. The world seemed to hold its breath as he took a hesitant step toward us. Suddenly, sirens seemed to fade into the background. Somehow, we were suspended in that shared heartbeat, echoing between us. The realization dawned not just on him, but upon all of us enfolded in that moment. We can find a better way, I reassured him, my own heart forging resilience from the ashes of our entangled lives. All our choices matter. It's never too late to Changetto begin again. As he trembled there, the shadows began to lift, and within that fragile intertwining of hopes and fears, we forged a live thread of understanding, a promise breathing life back into the darkness. And in that pivotal moment, everything shifted with the tenacity of a heart learning to beat again for what we once were, forgiving ourselves as we embraced the vibrant possibility of what we could become. There, in the heart of the storm, I found solace, surrounded by the echoes of our stories woven together, forever transformed by a choice made not in solitude, but in the interconnected tapestry of every life that touched ours. With trembling hands, he took the quilt from my arms, clutching it like a lifeline. Together, he murmured, echoing the child's sentiment. The flicker of light within him ignited, transforming shadows into shimmering threads, pulling on every heart present in the alleys, forever tethered to hope. And as that feeling expanded to fill the air around us, the last remnants of unfurling uncertainty faded as if carried away by the night's breezes, leaving only the pertinent truth that together we could tackle one another's darkness. Together, I whispered, heart swelling with the promise of new beginnings, as the night transformed into a canvas to behold, painted with fresh strokes of connection, resilience, and courage, marking a new chapter in our lives. For in the unrelenting darkness emerged the iridescent glow of acceptance and a bond strong enough to weather any storm words that anchored my heart, making me realize we could all rise again, reborn amid the echoes of what had been, forever changed and forever united. And as I turned to the child beside me, her unyielding spirit mirrored in my heart, I held on to our collected light, ready for the journey ahead, knowing we would walk together into the dawn, our own heroes, stitching hope and love into the very fabric of our unfolding stories, forever entwined. Together, I breathed, summoning the strength of countless stories woven into one, certain in the belief that lighter days awaited us all.